There are 7 specific catamaran models available right now, some buildable for the cost of materials and a few months of weekends, others under $200,000 fully rigged, that will still be crossing oceans long after the glossy charter fleet cats parked next to them have been retired to a marina graveyard. Nobody at the boat show points you toward these. The floor is full of shinier French production cats with bigger margins and bigger booths, backed by dealer networks with every incentive to keep your attention off a 40-year-old design with no local showroom. Here's why these 7 actually last, and here's the 7. Most cheap catamarans get cheap the same way cheap monohulls do. Thin laminate schedules, cord panels below the waterline where water eventually finds a way in, and hardware bolted on without proper backing plates. What actually separates a catamaran model that lasts from one that doesn't is almost never the sail plan or the interior finish. It's the hull construction below the waterline and whether that specific design came from a genuine engineering process or was rushed to meet charter fleet volume. These 7 models got the engineering right. Let's start with number 7. Number 7, the Wharram Tiki 21. Designed in 1981 by James Wharram, whose own ocean-crossing catamarans in the 1950s proved the double hull concept could survive the Atlantic, the Tiki 21 was built specifically as an easy, low-cost coastal trekking design using stitch and glue plywood and epoxy construction instead of a mold. It remains one of the most popular designs Wharram ever produced, specifically because a first-time builder with basic tools can complete one, and despite being designed as a coastal boat, at least one Tiki 21 has actually completed a full circumnavigation. Lashed rope crossbeams replace rigid bolted connections, letting the boat flex through waves rather than fight them, absorbing shock loads that would eventually crack a rigid metal beam on a smaller design. A complete Tiki 21 build runs a small fraction of what any production 21-foot catamaran costs new, and the design has been in continuous production as a plan set for over 4 decades, because nothing about the underlying engineering ever needed to change. Number 6, the Catalac 9M. Designed by Tom Lack and John Winterbotham and launched in 1970 in Christchurch, Dorset, England, the 9M became the most successful model Catalac ever built, with 255 hulls produced before the company's mid-1980s closure. Practical Boat Owner magazine summarized it plainly as, quote, competent, versatile, and long-lasting. The hulls are thick, solid fiberglass, laid up at a time when most competitors were already thinning their schedules to cut cost and weight, and Lack was confident enough in the design's stability that he personally offered a £10,000 reward to anyone who could document a 9M lifting one hull clear of the water under sail. That reward has never been claimed decades later. A signature detail on the 9M is a tabernacle system that lets the mast be raised and lowered by hand at the dock, without a crane, a feature that keeps ongoing maintenance costs meaningfully lower than a design requiring a yard visit every time rigging work is needed. The 9M's specific hard chine hull shape, with a flared bow to shed spray, is the reason so many of these boats are still cruising more than 50 years after they were built. Number 5, the Prout Snowgoose 37. The redesigned 37-foot version launched in 1978, evolving out of the earlier Snowgoose 35, and more than 500 were built, mostly through the 1980s. It is widely considered Prout's most successful model, and has completed more Atlantic crossings and full circumnavigations than nearly any other production catamaran of its era. The Snowgoose 37 uses Prout's signature aft-mounted mast with an oversized Genoa and a deliberately undersized mainsail, a rig designed specifically to keep the center of effort low and aft for stability rather than raw upwind speed, meaning the boat depowers itself naturally in a gust instead of relying entirely on crew reaction time. Most were fitted with a single engine on a retractable rotating sonic drive rather than twin engines, simplifying maintenance to one power plant instead of two, and cutting the annual service bill roughly in half compared to a twin-engine cruising cat of the same size. Prout folded as a company in 2002, but a Snowgoose 37 built 40-plus years ago is still routinely found sitting in a Caribbean anchorage today, priced as an afterthought next to boats a fraction as proven. If you've made it this far, do yourself a favor and subscribe if you want more of the best boating content you won't get elsewhere. Number 4. The PDQ-32. Designed by Alan Slater and launched in 1994 in Whitby, Ontario, only 53 of these were built over an 8-year production run, making it a genuinely rare find rather than a mass-produced hull. Practical Sailor's review called it a high-quality boat with, quote, bulletproof basics, noting most examples today sell for close to the same $85,000 to $110,000 they cost 15 to 20 years ago, a resale pattern almost never seen in production sailboats. The construction used triaxial cloth, acrylic modified epoxy resin, Clegacell foam core, and carbon fiber reinforcement in the main beam specifically to keep the boat light without sacrificing strength, engineered by a team led by an MIT-trained structural engineer rather than a design house chasing volume. The PDQ-32's deep keels and shallow overall draft of just over 3 feet make it capable offshore, while still able to gunk hole into skinny anchorages most cruising cats can't reach, and the long-range cruiser variant added twin Yanmar diesels with shaft drives and high-output alternators specifically for owners planning extended passages off the grid. Number 3. The Manta 42. Built in Florida through the 2000s and designed by French naval architect Eric Larouge, the Manta 42 is instantly identifiable by its high, fixed forward crossbeam, a departure from the pinned aluminum beams most competitors used at the time. What actually matters structurally is that the hull below the waterline is solid fiberglass with zero core material, laid up with vinyl ester resin, and reinforced with Kevlar specifically at the bow and keel, the 2 points most likely to take an impact. The hull-to-deck joint is bonded with 3M5200 adhesive and then reinforced with 360-degree unidirectional laminate to form what the builder specifically calls a monocoque structure. And deck hardware is through-bolted onto aluminum backing plates laminated directly into the layup rather than simply screwed into the deck skin. A Manta 42 was the featured boat and Boat of the Year winner at the Annapolis Boat Show in 2000, and individual hulls from this model have crossed the Atlantic and completed full circumnavigations. Because there is no core below the waterline to saturate or delaminate over time, a well-kept Manta 42 today surveys close to as solid as it did the day it left the factory. Number 2. The Gemini 105MC. Designed by Tony Smith and introduced as the final upgrade of the 105 series in the early 2000s, the 105MC kept Gemini's signature 14-foot beam, narrow enough to fit into a standard monohull marina slip instead of requiring an expensive wide berth most catamarans need. Tony Smith himself sailed a 23-day passage across the North Atlantic aboard one with his son, encountering 45-knot winds and 35-foot waves without ever feeling the boat was in danger. Construction uses a solid fiberglass hull laminate with a balsa cord deck for stiffness, and the model introduced Gemini's underhung, lifting rudder system alongside retractable centerboards, letting the boat sail into water most fixed keel cats would run aground in and retract on impact rather than snap. As tested by Practical Sailor, a new 105MC with a 27 horsepower engine and standard rigging ran about $129,500, a genuinely modest price for a catamaran capable of an open ocean passage. It is worth noting plainly that a practical sailor owner survey found some earlier Gemini models reporting osmotic blistering, so any used 105 MC deserves a laminate-focused survey specifically before purchase. Number 1. The Seawind 1160. Launched in 2004, the 1160 combined design elements from Seawind's earlier 1000 and 1200 models into a single package, and it developed what brokers and owners both describe as a genuine cult following in the years since, driving strong demand for used examples on the brokerage market. Built using a resin infusion process with closed molds and vacuum pressure rather than hand layup, the 1160's hulls come out stronger and lighter than a hand-laminated hull of the same size, without the resin-rich, weaker spots that hand layup can produce inconsistently from one boat to the next. The model became an award-winning fixture specifically because it hit a size sweet spot. Large enough for genuine offshore passage making, small and light enough for a cruising couple to handle without hired crew. A used Seawind 1160 today sells for a fraction of what a comparably sized new production Catamaran costs, while carrying the same Bluewater design DNA that Seawind's current internationally awarded lineup is still built on today. So here's the pattern across all 7. Every single specific model here has a real ocean crossing or circumnavigation record attached to it, not a marketing claim invented for a boat show banner. Every one of them reflects a deliberate engineering decision made for that exact design, whether that's the Manta 42's zero-core hull, the Catalac 9M's double-thick laminate, the Tiki 21's flexible lashed construction, or the PDQ 32's literal structural engineering pedigree, and everyone is priced today the way it is because the specific model has faded from conversation, not because the hull underneath is inferior. One caveat worth carrying into the used market: on any catamaran, structural soundness in one hull tells you nothing about the other, so a survey needs to inspect both hulls independently, along with the crossbeam connections and the hull-to-deck bond on each side. Ask for a full structural survey, not just a mechanical one, and get the core material tested for moisture wherever the specific model uses coring. A well-maintained example of any model on this list is a genuine Bluewater asset. A neglected one, regardless of the name on the transom, is a liability. Buy the specific boat in front of you, not just the story, and one of these 7 will likely still be crossing oceans long after the charter fleet next to it has been scrapped. Which one surprised you most, or is there one on this list you already own? Tell me in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.